Hello YouTube, Helen the Russian here. 4th of July driving. So for starters, as I mentioned in my previous video from the pre-4th of July weekend, Uber did offer a bonus, and I do realize bonuses are different in different areas and for different levels of drivers, as in some drivers do more driving, others less. In my case, I was offered $25 bonus for if I complete 16 rides from Monday to Friday. So Monday 4 a.m. through Friday 4 a.m. I decided, yeah, I probably can do it, and I did without much trouble. I wasn't really straining to accomplish that. I drove for about 3 hours Monday from say about 6, no, even earlier, like 5:30. Same, even less, like a couple of hours on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, which it was the 4th of July, I started out just after 5. I remember I filled my tank with gas, and I left the gas station at about 5:14. Yeah, very precise. I looked at my digital clock here in Green Valley, and very shortly, not straight away, but very shortly, I got a ride, and then I got another ride. Then I accomplished that bonus in less than 2 hours. I already got it, and then I did a couple more rides. But what actually, not that I was gonna drive late. I never drive late. Except for very, very occasional when the situation just happens to be that way. But what gave me a pause, I got a request for a ride at the Signature Towers MGM. You all know where it is on Koval. And as I was approaching, I saw an accident involving 3 cars. And from the looks of it, no one was hurt. But especially one car was pretty munted. I mean, the front was smashed, the bumper was laying on the road, the car was definitely totaled. And the other 2, just because of the odd angle, I'm not really sure what was happening in there. Definitely one of them failed to yield. But what I also saw was the guy standing by the police cruiser in the handcuffs with hands behind his back. And from the looks of it, it looked like drunk driving. Like that guy was definitely DUI, meaning it wasn't any kind of violent situation or drug suspicion. You know, you can tell looking at what goes on, drunk driving. And it kind of got me, I always worry when I see certain news and when I see things like that, because at the end of the day, no matter how safe or a defensive driver you are, a person like that can ruin your entire day and basically total your car, which is something that happened to me last year. The woman wasn't drunk, but I genuinely believe she was on drugs, possibly. But anyhow, think about it for a moment. This guy was drunk, clearly. He made a very bad decision to drink and drive, which I don't know why people do this in this day and age with all the Ubers, Lyfts, and even AA was offering free tipsy rides and tow the car for free. And you didn't have to be an AA member to partake in that. That was on the news. You just had to call the number and they would come and get you, tow your car and take you home, and you good. Free. And people still drink and drive. But anyhow, he absolutely ruined not just the holiday for these other people in 2 other vehicles. He destroyed their cars and hopefully has enough insurance to cover all that. And if not, again, looking at what happened to me last year, was not my fault. But the person didn't have insurance, her car wasn't registered, she had no assets, meaning there was no point suing her. She lived in her boyfriend's, not her husband, boyfriend's house with nothing on her name and didn't have a job. So I ended up $3,000 in the hole, and that's just for the car. That's not counting the time I missed from work, and thankfully there weren't really medical bills. If there were medical bills, I would be over 10 grand in the hole and no way to recoup it whatsoever. So that's that. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, I did my bonus and I actually did the extra couple of rides over that. I'm gonna do this ride. I didn't want to cancel this ride, and I'm glad, and they were really lovely people. And I'm gonna go home. So I was all happy and content with what I made. So overall, for the 3 days, very part-time driving. I mean, we're talking couple to 3 hours a day in the early evening. I had $200. So for those, this is what I always preach. You know, I know some people do this for a living, and which is fine, but Uber and Lyft is fantastic for a little extra money. You know, $200, you know, do a little shopping, pay your electric bill, you know, do whatever. It's the money you wouldn't have otherwise. And honestly, if I wasn't driving on during that time, I would be at home probably reading or watching TV, so not particularly productive. Anyhow, more to the point, it looks like this weekend is gonna be quite busy. Uber again came up with the bonus. I got a message yesterday. They offering $55 for 25 rides. I'm gonna try and make it happen. Obviously things could change, but at this stage I'm pretty set to do this. And as I was watching the news, the local news this morning, it's gonna be quite busy on the Strip, which is kind of two-edged sword. I'll tell you in a minute what I think and what's going on. So many of you remember Evel Knievel jumping over Caesar's Palace fountains back in 1968. I believe he's done that. And he almost died during that. He accomplished the stunt, but he fell off his bike as soon as he landed on the platform, and he was in a coma for 29 days. But he made it out, you know, he was fine. In fact, I'm gonna make a video. I know the preface to that story as to how that jump came to be. I know this whole story. Jay Sarno, the guy who built Caesar's Palace, is definitely involved. But anyhow, so there is this guy. Sorry, unfortunately, I can't remember his name. He's obviously a stunt motorcycle rider. He wants to repeat the stunt. That's going to be happening in front of Caesar's Palace, which is different now because there are so many things. They're using this extremely valuable real estate. So the way they set up the platform for this stunt, it's kind of between Hell's Kitchen and that sideshow Absence, I think they have. But they're going to have the fountains going, and he's going to jump over the fountains. The fountains that's right on the corner of Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard. That's going to be at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Because the event is free, you don't have to buy a ticket to go to this. I can see how it's gonna cause massive crowds and people stopping and whatnot. Personally, my personal opinion, I'm not an oracle of gospel truth. If I find myself driving around that time, I will avoid the area. I will not accept, I'll decline all calls to Caesar's Palace, or even probably, well, Flamingo you can get from the other side, Caesar's Palace, more or less, just because, as you well know, Caesar's is really hard to get in and out of to begin with. I cannot understand why they won't move rideshare to the garage so we can all access it from Frank Sinatra, just like MGM did, just like Aria did. You know, it's an easy fix. They can make it happen. For some reason, they just don't want to make it happen, and it's extremely difficult, especially now, as you remember, Link is building that zip line, so one of the lanes on the strip in front of Link and Flamingo is permanently closed. So it causes bottleneck in the best of times. Can you imagine what the traffic's going to be like when he's attempting that jump and with all the people? So personally, I will avoid that. No surge. Yeah, I can't imagine the surge being, you know, that great for it to be worth it. Like, unless it's 6 times surge, which I never seen in Vegas, to be honest. Like 1.6 or even 2.2 is not gonna cut it for me. It's just not worth it. So I won't be going there. Speaking of surge, as I was driving on the 4th of July, I noticed during the day, I wasn't driving during the day, I was at home, but I was looking at the app, seeing if there may be a surge. There was none. But as I was driving early evening, there was none to begin with. But just when I was ready to go home, and I still did go, I could see surge appearing on Uber in the spots, though. It was, one of them was in Green Valley and another one was really far out down I-15 South, like way past Blue Diamond. And then on Lyft, very briefly, there was a surge in the middle between Mirage and Circus around the strip. But again, it was very brief. It was there and then it was gone in like 3 minutes. So unless you were already in that area, you wouldn't be able to take advantage of that. And even the Uber surges, they disappeared pretty quickly. But the interesting part was usually what happens between Uber and Lyft, because I have them both so I can see. Uber will light up with the surge, and shortly after, sometimes a while after, Lyft will light up in about the same area, and then Lyft will disappear sooner, a whole lot sooner. Well, this time it was very different. The area where Lyft was surging was not surging on Uber at all. Uber was surging in different areas. So it's kind of something to think about, because in Vegas we have very different market as far as Lyft and Uber is concerned. And it mainly has to do with the fact that Lyft is not yet international. I know they're expanding in Canada, but that's the only country they're expanding, meaning all the people, all the tourists that came to Las Vegas from other countries other than Canada and US, they wouldn't have Lyft. They wouldn't know what Lyft is, and they wouldn't care to download it in most cases, because they all have Uber, which is why in Las Vegas, Uber surging a whole lot more often, and you get more rides on Uber due to that very reason, just because Lyft hasn't expanded quite as much as Uber had. And so seeing that on the 4th of July made me kind of curious. I was wondering why that is and what was happening, but it might have had to do with some events and whatnot. Who knows? Anyhow, it's gonna be hot today. There is heat advisory in effect. We're gonna hit 112, which for those of you who live here, it's not any kind of rarity. We have that every summer, and monsoon season is coming. So definitely stay cool, stay hydrated, stay safe. Above all else, don't compromise your safety. Stay safe. There are way too many crazy people out there. And everybody have a fantastic, prosperous weekend.